Hey preppers, welcome to the channel. Welcome to Goshen Prepping. Out here in the middle of nowhere, Michigan, we've had some serious snowstorms where, of course, we lost power. In fact, one time we had no power and we're stuck in the house for 10 days straight without electricity. And take it from me, from dealing with this firsthand, you want to be prepared because you know what? Forecasts go, they're saying in some parts of the country we're going to have some pretty serious snow, some heavy snow and weather, and of course with subsequent power outages. We want to be ready. So stay with the video. I'm going to show you some things you want to consider. Maybe you haven't considered them before to be ready for this. First off, number one, obviously, are the things that we clearly prep all the time anyway. Make sure you have food and water, a gallon of water per day per person. I would have a few days, if not a month worth of water, and of course, lots of food in store too. Flashlights, lanterns, batteries, all those things that you would normally prep with. It almost is without being said, but of course, I want to say it to make sure you're prepared. Number two, specifically, when we talk about winter now, you want to make sure that if you have an area where you have a power outage in your house, you want to set up an area that's kind of like your warm zone inside your house, like a living room. Or maybe if it's just you and another person, maybe your master bedroom can be your warm zone. And with this, in the warm zone, set up your sleeping bags. Not just sleeping bags, by the way. If you can get a cold weather one, great. But if you have a not so cold weather sleeping bag, obviously layers and layers of blankets and sleeping bags work very well. Not to mention, if you buy a tent, you can set it up there. It actually keeps your body heat much more confined in that one area. I'll put links below for some of this stuff, by the way, but obviously you don't have to get it from where I'm going to link it. But having the sleeping bags and tents is going to be obviously advantageous. Number three, you need to warm up your area. The tent will work well, but of course, you're not going to be staying in your tent for 10 days straight. You have to get up and go to the bathroom and such. So you may want to consider having some kind of heat source. I know a lot of people will use candles and the clay pots and stuff. I find they don't really put out quite enough heat to actually make it happen. I think you should look at getting a buddy heater or a kerosene heater. Both of those are amazing, by the way, and obviously having the fuel to make it go. But if you do have those in your house, this is so important. You want to make sure you don't die from it. You need to have some kind of battery-powered carbon monoxide detector to make sure you don't have carbon monoxide, which always comes from burning something, by the way. It doesn't matter if you're a stove or a buddy heater, etc. If you're burning, it's releasing carbon monoxide, and you don't want lethal levels of carbon monoxide to kill you in your sleep. That's just not a good thing. And on top of that, have a fire extinguisher. You know, back in the 1800s, wood homes, candles and stuff, homes burned down quite often. Today, we don't like homes burning down so much, so having a fire extinguisher would work very well. On top of that, in your whole house, but especially in your warm area, you want to reduce the amount of drafts. Of course, putting plastic up over the windows works very well. But something else too, up here in Michigan, we actually have blackout curtains. They're super heavy duty. They actually set up an insulation layer between inside the house and outside. You might want to consider getting some of those. And furthermore, if all possible, try to stay indoors. Once you go outside, by the way, I mean, it changes everything. You want to have cold weather gear clothing, like, you know, the boots and the gloves and jackets and stuff. I'm going to put a video at the end of this where I talk about what kind of clothing you might want to have. But if all possible, stay indoors to try to not have to battle the elements of the snow as it is. I'm not saying it can't happen, but try. But if you do, you know, obviously having a lot of merino wool works very well. You also need to, number 6, keep in touch. Keep in touch with friends, family. They want to make sure that you are okay, but you also want to make sure they're okay too, their well-being. Not to mention, especially if you're living alone, it's very nice to have someone you can chat with so you don't feel so isolated. And again, trust me, being stuck out here snowed in for 10 days, even with our family, you start getting a little claustrophobic and kind of antsy. You want to be able to talk with someone. With that in mind, having a crank radio, or if you have a solar generator with a regular radio is good, but always having a crank radio, which I'll link below too. That way you can listen to music, listen to news, obviously, to see what's happening. A lot of the crank radios now can actually charge your phone and have flashlights to them. They're really neat. Not to mention, you want to see about possibly having games and puzzles and stuff to occupy your time. You will go nuts, especially if you don't have like Netflix, or Prime, whatever you possibly want to watch something on. Now, again, if you do have some kind of solar generator, and that's number 7, that is a better way to go, obviously, but they can be pricey. I'll put a link below for a couple of the different ones that I look at. But, it's nice to be able to turn something on and actually see something visually instead of just listen to music and such. But try to find something either way to occupy your time. And, of course, having a solar generator, you can use it to charge up things like your phone or your lanterns or flashlights if they happen to be USB. All right. put in the description below what are some things you would add to this list too, because if you've ever been stuck indoors before for a long period of time with snow outside and blizzard type weather, it can be very frightening. And again, you can be very claustrophobic. Put in the links in the comments below what you would add to the list. And thank you for watching.